Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon, and check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches, or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. Okay, everyone, welcome back to another episode. And today I am joined by Leslie Thornton, who is an NLP and hypnosis trainer. And she is the CEO and founder of Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. Leslie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Excited to share value with your audience today.
I have no doubt we'll get tremendous value from this episode. Where are you zooming in from today?
Upstate New York.
Is that where you're from?
I am from Albany, New York. That's true. I've lived all over the world, but still landed back in my hometown.
And now tell me about, what is NLP exactly?
Yeah, NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And it's actually very succinctly the study of how to be extraordinary in every area of life. It really uses how the mind works and understanding that we receive everything through our five senses, and then learning how communication and our emotions really affect the results that we're seeing in our life.
And now this involves hypnosis, or is hypnosis training, is that a separate specialty that you work
Yeah,
with?
so I train people they get 4 certifications through my program. So Neuro-Linguistic Programming, Timeline Therapy, Hypnosis, as well as NLP coaching. So hypnosis is, you could see it as a branch off of Neuro-Linguistic Programming because it's how we're using language that actually creates an access into the unconscious mind, which is in charge of all of our major beliefs, our automatic habits, our patterns. And so when we know how to communicate specifically to the unconscious mind using NLP, that ends up being hypnotic language patterning that we're using. Again, that produces those more powerful results for people.
And what exactly is timeline therapy?
Timeline therapy, it's not known to be past life regression, although it is a form of it. So whether people believe in past lives or not, the tool is super powerful. So if any of your audience has ever heard of a gestalt, the idea of that is that when we're born a blank slate. Our unconscious mind is a blank page. And there must have been at some point, the very first time that we experienced anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and shame. There must have been a very first event that happened where you took on some kind of limiting belief of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, etc. And so timeline therapy is a therapeutic modality that actually supports you in going in your imagination back to the very first event when you ever started to experience any of those emotions or limiting decisions, clear out that event through a new learning, and then clear out the entire chain of events all the way back to now so that you're not affected by those things, as powerfully anymore.
So I've actually been through hypnosis therapy and timeline therapy. And for me personally, I was having some triggers, and there were certain things that would trigger me. And I believe we did exactly what you just talked about. We went back to the first time where I felt like I wasn't smart enough, or I was embarrassed. And we went back and typically this was, and correct me or let me know if you agree with this, you try to go back to the earliest time or the earliest memory of such an event, um, such as the first time you were angry. Go back to that event. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's exactly what you're saying. So the way that the process starts is you first ask your unconscious mind if it's okay for you to clear out this emotion today and for you to be aware of it consciously, getting that unconscious agreement. And then you ask your unconscious mind, what is the very first event, the first event which this emotion appeared? If you were to know, was it before, during, or after your birth? And then you kind of trust your unconscious mind to let you know. So if it was after, it's what age were you? If it was during, obviously it was during. If it was before your birth, was it in the womb or before the womb? If it was before the womb, was it past life or genealogical? And then you ask how many past lives ago or how many generations ago. And then you just trust, wherever you go when you imagine actually going back to that event. And then just say, like, okay, looking down at that very first event on the timeline of your life, what are you noticing? The first time that I ever had timeline therapy done for myself, I was actually starting my business as a hypnotherapist. Hypnosis completely changed my life as far as being, health conscious and diet obsessed to recognizing that this was a deeper unconscious issue that I could heal in this other way. So I got super invigorated by the power of the unconscious mind, how it worked, and, got trained in these areas, obviously. And so I obviously had to experience myself to be trained. And I was having challenges with actually telling people that I was a hypnotherapist for fear of what they might think or say or believe about me. And so I did timeline therapy looking for that limiting belief. And I, wasn't really privy to past life stuff, but that's still just where my unconscious mind went. Looked down on the event and I saw a visual of, like, during Salem witch trial times, like me standing in front of like a rock wall and having the awareness that I was about to be stoned to death. Now, whether or not that actually happened, and it was because I was bringing my alternative way of helping people to, right, during Salem witch trial time, bringing that kind of thing that was not looked at kindly. Whether or not that actually happened is not as important, right? Did I learn that just from, living in upstate New York in history class in fourth grade and, learning about that? Or did it actually happen? Again, it doesn't matter, but just by landing on that initial very core event and then coming up with that new learning, still release the energy and the fear that then had me be able to walk out of that session and feel really powerful and confident to be able to obviously be able to speak about what I do today.
And to, I was asked similar questions. Did the first event, for example, if we're focusing on the first time you felt like you were not smart, did that happen before, during, or after your birth? And my answers were always after my birth. Do people actually answer during your
Yeah,
birth or
absolutely.
during while you're
Yes,
in the womb or before, as in like a past life?
absolutely. Yep. I just had a client the other day on our call. It was before her birth and she was in the womb, and it was actually, it was at conception. And she had the awareness that her father actually had a vasectomy. They didn't want to have any more children, but they still got pregnant again anyway. So again, whether or not her unconscious mind actually took on the energy of her mother, right, kind of being however she was emotionally when she found out she was pregnant after not wanting to, or if it was because she heard the story. Again, it's less important, but her actually going back and trusting that in the womb was what came to her, or during conception, right, was still the powerful thing that allowed her energy and her thoughts to shift.
And now, what was your training like? Dental school is 4 years. Uh, be- Sometimes we do a residency after uh, we have to get our licenses. How does it work with what you do? What was the program? What kind of training did you go through?
Definitely. Well, first, I was a registered nurse, worked in kidney transplant and the neuro and surgical ICU for several years. I was a personal trainer, so I was always into health and that kind of stuff. And then I really got into, I never was into medicine really. I always was into wanting to know holistic ways to support myself. So it's kind of that journey. Um, and that's where I found hypnosis. Again, kind of stumbled upon it, was very skeptical of it. And then I kind of stumbled upon coaching. So I knew that I didn't want to be a nurse forever. And once I found out like the positive psychology part of coaching, I just completely fell in love with it. And so I started coaching people on hypnosis for weight loss because I had already experienced that myself. And then I had a client say, like, I don't want you to tell me about hypnosis. I actually just want you to do it. So I actually just was like, all right, well, this is just practice to become a coach. This was in 2013. Did the hypnosis over the phone. She came back the next week. She's like, whatever you did last week, do it again. I've never felt more free around food in my life. So I was like, wow, does this actually work over the phone? That's when I actually got introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. He's a leader of consciousness, and actually did a project with him and his team. And then I started researching someone to do the hypnosis for my clients as I was the coach. And in that process, found someone who was actually living on the same street as me, who was a trainer of neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, timeline therapy. And so I did a 2-year long apprenticeship with him. So sat in with him while he did hypnosis with clients. There's a whole manual for, neuro-linguistic programming, and week by week would just do, all the different aspects of NLP and all the things. And then from there to become a trainer, I was in Las Vegas a few years ago for an entire month. It was very intensive. And yeah, just learning leadership, but then also learning the tools on a whole different level, having to understand all of the ins and outs, which NLP, like the way I like to describe it is like the way that atoms are the building blocks of matter. It's like NLP is the building blocks of communication. And communication is how energy gets to move, right? How we talk to ourselves, how we talk to others. I had an awesome coach at one point teach us how leadership, sales, and coaching is all the same thing, right? I also did extensive leadership training for probably 5 years when I was in Australia and India. Um, so I've just always been, it's like never ended since I found hypnosis in 2011. But that's a little glimpse of kind of what that's looked like for me.
And is what you do as effective over the phone or Zoom versus in person?
100%. Um, yeah, I've gotten the same results for clients in person, as I have virtually, which was surprising to me. But when I first did that experiment with that one client, when I was becoming a coach, I researched it, and there was a whole list of hypnotherapists who worked over the phone, and got great results. So it does work.
And now talk to me about skepticism with clients or potential clients or getting people to go through it. Um, what do you tell the people out there that say that this can't work on me?
Absolutely. Well, there's a couple tests that we get to do. One that I can do briefly that I think we can all relate to in some way, shape, or form is like if you imagine it's a really hot day and you go to the farmer's market and you go and you pick out a whole bunch of lemons and they're just like so ripe and so like warm from the sun and all the things. And you bring it home and you take that lemon out and you put it on your cutting board and you get a really sharp knife and you cut into the lemon. You just see just the spritz of the lemon juice just going into the air. And then you cut a little wedge of it and you take that lemon wedge and you just put it in your mouth and it's just like dripping with that lemon juice. And it's just like, and it's just like it's just like, so many people as I do that, right? Maybe their mouth is starting to water a little bit. Is yours, Eric?
I could actually picture the taste of the lemon when you were saying
Okay. Yep, exactly. So it's like that in and of itself. It's just like the mind, when you're imagining something, creates physiological reactions. So I'll do a series of tests just to help them, kind of recognize that this work works for anybody. And at the same time, as far as skepticism goes, I needed to experience it to really understand the power of it. So for the last 3 years, I've been doing a free healthy hypnosis hour session. I actually just did it last night um, on Zoom so that people could experience just the power that it is and results of clients. I do the weight loss hypnosis primarily on those calls. Um, Eating a salad for lunch the next day, making their smoothie automatically, not needing the crackers and chips that they usually did at noontime. So I just invite people. And the other thing that I do with that is like, if we understand the science, right? If you understand that this isn't any kind of magical woo-woo, whatever, then we're going to be more likely to actually be able to just relax enough and see that nobody's doing anything to you. It's just, yeah, relaxing the conscious part of your mind that's thinking all day long and getting in the way of your being able to access this beautiful, amazing part of you. Um, yeah, so that you can get better results in an area of your life that you might feel a little stuck in.
And now, how does this differ from the time I went to a nightclub and the hip hypnotist got
Mm.
someone up on stage and made him speak like Elvis in Chinese, and the person
Mm,
actually did that?
nice.
How is this different from that type of hypnosis?
Nice. So in my training, I actually needed to conduct a stage hypnosis. I also needed to receive the stage hypnosis. So I've been on both ends. Um, Number one, the hypnotherapist knows to pick someone who's already highly suggestible. So the person who looks like they're like already raising their hand, they're so into it, they want to be there. They're not going to pick the person who's like this because you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do.
Mhm.
Right? There's nothing, magical about that at all. And then the other aspect is it's basically like when you're quieting down the unconscious mind using the hypnotic language patterns, it just scrambles things up so that you let go of what we gain as adults of caring what other people think about you, worrying about how you're going to sound or say, blah, 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 right? So you're basically just like a little kid without any inhibitions. And at the same time, if there was anything that the hypnotherapist asked you to do that you were 100%, it was against your values, you were a no for, you'd easily be able to just come out and say no and not do it. Mythbusters actually did a thing on hypnosis, and that was the experience. They, had the guy go under. And the next day they said the mantra that would make him do something silly, and it was going to be like way too embarrassing and not whatever. So you could see that he paused, he stopped, he thought about it, and then he made a decision not to do it.
Mm.
So similar to that. And, if you're just there to have fun and nice and relaxed, then oftentimes people are just like, why not? Because you're in that state.
And in that state, when you're actually having a session with a client over Zoom, does the patient fall asleep? Do they remember the session? How does that work?
Yeah, everybody's a little bit different. So sometimes people fall asleep, but then they'll, when I say I'm going to count them back up, right? Because you bring them down, you bring them up, they'll come right back. So obviously there is still that part of their unconscious mind that was listening in those first stages of sleep, which is where the unconscious mind is most open and most receptive to what's coming in. Some people will stay alert the entire time. Some people will hear every single word I say, or they drift off a little. Um, the important piece is hypnosis, very clearly and succinctly defined, is just the act of following instructions. So if you're just listening to what the hypnotherapist is saying and doing the best of your ability, even if you're not the best visualizer or whatever, but just actively going through what they're saying, it's basically like rehearsal in your brain for the outcome that you're wanting. There's been lots of scientific studies of people who have actually just imagined practicing a piano piece versus people who are actually playing the piece, or same with basketball. They're imagining sinking the shot. I practice this with myself when I play golf and I'm putting. Like I'll imagine the ball going into the thing. And like if I really do a good job, like oftentimes it'll get in. Um, so there's just, yeah, that it's actually more powerful to imagine the rehearsal. So through repetition, through emotion, you're just imagining what's being said so that you can get a different result.
Now, how do you actually help dentists? If a dentist is it, are you specializing in weight loss, or can you help them with anxiety, stress, anger, depression, all the above?
Absolutely. So I've worked with dentists in all those capacities. One, for weight loss, several for business help, some that actually want to transition out of dentistry into coaching. Also, just better business skills in general, and just stress management for sure. I've learned a lot about your industry over the years and how stressful it can be, and dealing with patients, also like the sales component. And it really just comes down to like how well can you connect with all different types of people? How well can you communicate to what really matters to them, right? And what's going on in their unconscious mind. Um, So the NLP training specifically, one of the dentists that I had go through, she was having all sorts of ideas and breakthroughs, for what she could bring into her practice and how she could help her clients with dental phobia. Um, Also how she could sell the head dentist on her services to like make the practice better. And obviously just selling, patients on any of the products that you have for them in a way that has integrity, right? That is actually looking out for their best interest and, just all the way around works. Um, yeah, so all those different ways.
And what about um, dentists? At the end of the day, they're exhausted. They want to go home and eat. That's one of the ways they to decompress or drink. How can you help them there?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. That's like one of my favorite things to help people with. So in my Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss program, proven program, done it hundreds of times at this point. Every time people do it, it works. It's just getting that better relationship with emotions, understanding how your thoughts impact the emotions, but then it's also looking at like what was the thing during your day that actually created that level of stress later. So did you have a really hard conversation? Was there a really challenging patient? Is it your money and your finances have been not as good as you want them to be for a while, right? So really working through those things and bringing in the unconscious work to that as well. So um, the premise of being like feel first and then think later. So as human beings in general, our unconscious mind is designed to keep us safe, and so it sees painful negative emotions as unsafe, like don't feel them. And so, but that creates, as a coping mechanism, lots of overthinking or overworking or numbing, right? So it's so innocent that we want to drink or we want to eat because it does actually work. But obviously, when we're not in integrity with how we're eating or drinking, that's going to affect us. So, how do we actually, yeah, go back to that root cause? And then also look at, oh, I made it mean when they looked at me that way. I made it mean that they hate me. I'm a bad dentist, right? I'm not good enough, whatever. And so we know that that's probably coming from something way back in the past. So we'll use a modality like timeline therapy or hypnosis to actually go back, clear out that event. And now, from a space where your emotions are feeling good, it's like you can make a clear, sound decision, right? You can know naturally what your next action steps would be. So it really empowers you to trust yourself, your own decisions, and also take back control over those emotions. And naturally, you don't need the food or the alcohol as much anymore.
And how many sessions typically? I'm sure it varies from person to person and situation to situation, but let's say I wanted to quit drinking, quit smoking, control my eating. How long does it typically take?
Yeah, it does vary. So I had a client who, right after she started the program, like drinking just completely took a back seat. She also shared with me that she had been thinking for a long time that she wanted to decrease her drinking. So it's like we always get what we want at the end of the day. So if it's something that's in alignment for you, it's something that authentically is a desire for you. As soon as you kind of, draw your line in the sand and make a decision and say I'm invested in like doing better for my health and these types of ways, you're naturally going to let go of those things as soon as you're ready. But for another example, I've had some clients that are like, don't tell me to let go of my wine. I love my wine. It's like, I'm not going to tell you to let go of your wine, right? Obviously, there could be an impact with your weight for that, but that's, we want you to live your life the way you want to. If we want you to eat the way you want, drink the way you want, I always say to my clients, like, you're a grown ass woman, you're a grown ass man, like you can do whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you what to do. And let's get healthier, right? With just how you're dealing with emotions or anything that might be, driving you to the alcohol if you want to. And then let's see how your relationship with alcohol may change. Or let's do the hypnosis and just experiment with putting the alcohol into the hot air balloon basket and seeing it float away. And let's see if you feel as attached again to having it. And the idea with working with the unconscious mind is it should feel easy. It should feel like a yes for you, like it's automatic, not willpower, not self control, because that stuff doesn't last long term. So it's a journey for everyone. It is different. But at the end of the day, it's when your unconscious mind feels safe enough to let it go and it has found something else to replace it with that feels even more energizing, in alignment with you and where you want to go in your life.
All right, this has been an amazing episode, Leslie. I want to wrap up with two final questions. Number one, how do we get a hold of you, or how do we find out more about what you're up to? And number two, what advice would you give to the young dental professionals out there?
Absolutely. So, number one, thanks for the opportunity to help me help people who are resonating. HPWL.co for Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss.co for anyone that is needing any support with weight loss specifically. Um, for NLP training to be better just in all areas of your life, I have 2 spots left right now for my September training. That is hpwl.info/NLP1. And there's a way to book a call. I'm very clear that there's something for everyone to get out of the NLP and hypnosis training. So happy to have a conversation with anyone and really take a deeper look at what's going on. Instagram, I'm a very conversational, relational person, so would love to just have you say hi. My handle is Leslie M. Thornton, Thornton. And let me know you heard me on Eric's podcast. And then as far as what I would say to young dentists, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I love that question. Just knowing that as you're starting, like there never really has to be an endpoint. Like I think so often when I started as a nurse, it was kind of like, okay, well now I'm expected to end here. Like this is my career. I just spent all these years in college to do this. Um, And obviously my journey, has been so much longer and just will forever continue. So getting the support that you need as emotions come up, getting a coach is I've hired mentorship and coaching for so many years after college, consistently. And it's just made all the difference as far as making me the leader I am today. Um, and just the service provider. And then also just learning to be more and more authentic and true to myself, which yeah, does only makes me healthier, happier. And I just truly believe that what makes all of us happy as human beings is being in service. So being the happiest, healthiest version of yourself is going to be what allows you to continue being in service. So if you have a bunch of stress and anxiety, get support for it. Know that that's not necessarily normal, but it could be indicating that there's more, right? Or there's opportunities for you to become, yeah, whatever your potential is.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Leslie. It's such a great episode. Look forward to being in touch with you, and I look forward to going on your podcast soon. So,
Yes,
again,
absolutely. The Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss podcast. So people will have to tune in and listen to your interview very soon.
awesome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again for listening to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress Free Dentist.